She laughed in the face of a poor, blind father and tried to kick his sick daughter out of her elite VIP hospital. She thought she was just getting rid of a worthless beggar, but this arrogant receptionist made one fatal mistake. She had no idea that the blind man she just humiliated was actually the billionaire owner of the hospital, operating undercover, and his silent revenge was about to destroy her entire career. Outside the doors of Tam Duke International VIP Hospital during the day, an old, scarred wooden walking cane taps rhythmically, but somewhat slowly and unsteadily against the asphalt amidst the distant noise of traffic. Walking along are feet wearing worn, torn canvas shoes with a bit of mud right next to the tiny feet of a little 6-year-old girl named Lily, who is wearing worn-out pink plastic Crocs. She wears an old, tiny floral dress whose yellow fabric has faded from many washes and is slightly loose on her skinny body. She tightly holds the rough, wrinkled hand of her father, Nani. Nani, who is about 50 years old but looks older, wears a faded green khaki jacket, a slouched hat, and dark glasses that cover half his face. He takes each step tentatively and unsteadily, carrying a worn-out canvas backpack. With a clear but slightly timid voice, Lily looks around and says, "Daddy, this hospital is so big, it is bigger than our village communal house. It is shining so brightly." Nani stops and gently turns his head toward his daughter's voice. He smiles, a gentle smile, even though his eyes hidden behind the dark glasses cannot see the luxury in front of him. With a warm, soothing voice, he replies, "It is this big. So the doctors are good, my child. The doctor will cure my Lily's cough. Stay close to me and be careful not to slip." The two of them continue walking towards the huge, automatic revolving glass doors of the hospital. The sunlight reflecting off the tempered glass highlights the magnificence of this place, completely contrasting with their small, weathered figures. Inside the main lobby, the spectacular space looks like a 5-star hotel. Soft, symphonic instrumental music plays elegantly, and high heels clack on the white marble floor. In a far corner of the lobby, a young personal assistant named Andrew, wearing a crisp white shirt under a navy vest, sits quietly, holding a black leather briefcase. His sharp eyes scan the room like a ghost observing everything. The automatic glass doors open, and Nani and Lily enter. Their appearance is like a scratch on a perfect painting. Lily's eyes widen in fear as she looks at the soaring ceiling. Nani taps his wooden cane on the marble floor, and the sound suddenly becomes jarring in the quiet space. Several VIP guests frown, casting annoyed glances at the poor figures. At the white quartz reception desk, Eva, a 25-year-old receptionist with careful makeup, bold red lips, a neat hair bun, and a tailored grey suit with a silk scarf, gives a corporate smile while guiding a guest. As soon as the guest leaves, Nani gropes his way forward. His cane accidentally bumps lightly into the stone partition. He reaches out his bony hand, gripping the edge of the pristine white desk to keep his balance. With a humble and polite voice, he asks, "Excuse me, miss, may I ask where the procedure to register a child for a medical examination is?" The corporate smile on Eva's lips instantly vanishes. Her eyes scan from his slouched hat down to his dirty jacket and stop at his hand gripping the edge of the desk. She stands up straight, crossing her arms defensively, showing clear annoyance. With a cold, mocking voice, she says, "You are in the wrong place, uncle. This is Tam Duck International Hospital, not a ward clinic." Saying that, she casually reaches out to take the hand sanitizer bottle, spraying it generously onto her hands and rubbing them vigorously with a disgusted expression right at the exact moment he touches the desk. Lily feels the hostile attitude and hurriedly hides behind her father's leg, gripping her floral dress. Still maintaining a gentle attitude and slightly pulling his hand back, Nani says, "I know. I heard people say this hospital is very good. My daughter has been coughing for several months without getting better. I brought money. Please guide me, so she can be examined by a doctor." He reaches deep into his torn jacket pocket and carefully pulls out a wad of small bills, smoothed out and wrapped in a small plastic bag. Eva looks at the wad of money and smirks coldly. Jutting her chin, she says, "Put that bag away immediately. The initial examination fee here is 5 million dong, not including testing fees. Your small change is not enough to buy a box of medicine here. That number is beyond imagination for someone like you." Nanny's hand trembles slightly. Lily looks up at her father crying and says, "Daddy, it is too expensive. Maybe we should go home. My cough is gone." She tries to hold it back, but a fit of dry coughs comes, making her tiny chest shake violently. Nani hurriedly bends down to rub his daughter's back his face, showing deep sorrow beneath his sunglasses. Looking up with an imploring voice, he says, "Miss, I beg you, please let her go in for the examination first. I will call my family to bring more money right away. Her coughing is so pitiful." Glaring at him, Eva orders in a loud voice, "I said no. Do you not understand Vietnamese? This is not a place for charity. You and the child please leave the waiting area immediately. Our VIP guests are already complaining." She waves her hand towards the exit, as if chasing away an evil spirit. In the far corner, Andiu remains standing perfectly still, slightly adjusting his glasses as his cold, sharp eyes record Eva's entire arrogant attitude, preparing for the storm that is about to hit. The cruelty didn't stop at the reception desk. When the arrogant hospital director stepped in to brutally throw the blind father and his coughing daughter into the streets, he thought he was protecting his elite VIP empire. He had no idea he was actually signing his own termination letter in front of the undercover billionaire owner. But right before the ultimate revenge, one lowly intern nurse was about to make a split-second decision that would change her destiny forever. The electronic numbers above the VIP elevator flashed, descending rapidly from the 15th floor to the ground. With a sharp ding, the polished doors slid open, revealing Director Tran, a heavily built man of about 50 with slicked-back hair. He wore an impeccably tailored suit beneath a pristine white lab coat. His face projected a dignified authority, but his eyes were cold and calculating. Right behind him trailed a group of experts and doctors, all bowing their heads submissively, clutching notebooks and nodding at his every word. Remember, his booming voice echoed across the marble. This month, the neurosurgery department's revenue must increase by at least 15%. All patients who cannot afford the advanced service package should be transferred to public hospitals. Do not let them occupy VIP beds. As he spoke, his sharp eyes scanned the waiting lobby. His gaze froze when he spotted the shabby figures of the blind father and his little daughter standing in front of the reception desk. The half-smile on his face instantly curled into an annoyed frown. He took long, deliberate strides toward the desk. Eva, the receptionist, who had just been acting so arrogantly towards the father, immediately changed her demeanor. Seeing the director approach, she hastily stood up straight, crossed her hands in front of her stomach, and bowed her head low. "Hello, Director," she stammered with a trembling, flattering voice. Director Tran did not even glance at her. He stopped 2 steps away from the blind father and raised a hand to cover his nose, acting as if he had just smelled something incredibly foul. Pointing a furious finger straight at the receptionist, he snapped, "What kind of work are you doing here? Who allowed you to let beggars roam around the VIP lobby like this? Do you know that a single stain on this floor is enough to cost you a year's salary?" Pale-faced, Eva stammered, "Sir, Director, I already chased them away, but he stubbornly refuses to leave." Hearing the scolding, Nani stepped back unconsciously, pulling Lily behind his back to protect her. With a trembling voice, clinging to the last shreds of his dignity, he said, "Sir, you misunderstood. We are not beggars. We came here for a medical examination. I brought money." He held out the plastic bag containing the wrinkled, small bills. Director Tran glanced at the wad of money, a contemptuous smile spreading across his lips. He took a half step forward, With a monotonous, utterly sarcastic tone, he sneered. Money? Do you think this is a rural clinic that you can bring this smelly pile of small change here? This hospital was built to serve the elite. Our brand image is worth millions of dollars, and your presence here is polluting that image. Sobbing and hugging her father's leg tightly, little Lily cried, Daddy, they are scolding you. Let's go home, Daddy. Hearing his child cry, Nani's heart clenched. He bit his lip hard, swallowing the bitter lump in his throat. Suddenly, he dropped his wooden cane, clasped his hands together in front of his chest, and knelt on one knee on the freezing marble floor. I beg you, Director, he pleaded, his voice choking with desperation. I bow 1,000 times to you. My little girl has been coughing up blood for days now. Please let a doctor examine her for just a moment. Whatever the cost is, I swear to work as a hired labourer and collect scrap to pay the hospital in installments. Please, have mercy. The father's absolute sincerity and desperation made the entire lobby fall into a heavy silence. A few wealthy patients nearby began to whisper and point, but Director Tran remained completely emotionless. He coldly turned his face away, raised his hand high, and snapped his fingers decisively. Where is the security? He roared. Throw these two out immediately and spray disinfectant all over this area for me. From the corners of the lobby, 2 large security guards in black uniforms rushed over. Without a word, they roughly grabbed the shoulders of the kneeling father. Get up! Get out now! One guard shouted. Do not make us use force! Nani clumsily tried to stand, but blinded and yanked so violently, he lost his balance. The security guard gave a hard shove, making the frail man stagger backwards. His skinny hand flailed helplessly in the air. The wooden walking cane slipped from his grasp, hitting the marble floor with a harsh, clattering sound. The dark glasses on his face were knocked askew, revealing cloudy, panicked eyes. Seeing her father pushed to the ground, Lily panicked utterly. Ah! Do not hit my daddy! Daddy! She screamed. The child's heartbreaking cry echoed throughout the luxurious hospital lobby, bouncing off the unfeeling marble walls. Director Tran stood with his arms crossed, smirking coldly. He turned his back, preparing to walk away, fully convinced that this piece of trash had been swept away. In the far corner of the lobby, the personal assistant, Andrew, slightly raised himself from the sofa, his hand clenching into a tight fist, preparing to act. But right at the moment when the cruelty and resentment reached its absolute peak, a small figure in a blue scrub suit suddenly broke away from the crowd of onlooking doctors and nurses, rushing straight into the center of the chaos. The crying of the little girl was suddenly drowned out by resolute footsteps cutting through the formation of submissive doctors. Intern Nurse Mai, a young woman of about 22, with a gentle face and a name tag that read, Intern Ho Ang Mai, abruptly broke away from the unfeeling crowd. She rushed straight into the center of the chaos, using her small body to block the 2 large security guards from the blind father and his daughter. Stop it! You are hurting the patients! She cried out, spreading her arms with a trembling but resolute voice. She hurriedly crouched down, picked up the wooden walking cane, and carefully placed it back into the father's hand. Gently, she pulled the little girl into her arms, using a tissue to wipe the tear streaks from the child's cheeks. Be a good girl. Do not cry. I am here, she comforted her. No one is allowed to chase you and your daddy away. Standing up abruptly, Mai faced Director Tran's furious eyes. She took a deep breath and spoke loudly enough for the entire waiting lobby to hear. Director, the pediatric patient is showing signs of coughing up blood and needs immediate emergency care. If you are worried, they do not have money. I will use my entire first month's internship salary to pay for her initial examination. The entire waiting lobby suddenly fell completely silent. The resistance of a lowly intern was like a physical slap in the face to the powerful director. His face turned red, distorted with anger. Taking a step forward, veins bulging on his forehead. He roared and pointed a finger straight at Mai's face. "Are you crazy? A lowly intern dares to disobey me?" "You are polluting the prestige of this hospital." Aggressively lunging forward, Director Tran swung his arm and violently ripped the name tag pinned to Mai's lab coat, tearing a seam in the shoulder of her uniform. He contemptuously threw the hard plastic name tag onto the marble floor. "From this moment on, you are officially fired," he spat with a cruel voice. "Get out of here right now with your beggars." The name tag clattered on the floor, landing right under the father's worn-out shoes. Mai stood stunned, her eyes red, but she refused to step back. Then, time seemed to slow down. The dead silence in the room was palpable. The blind father, who had been standing with his head bowed, suddenly changed his posture. His hunched back slowly straightened up. All traces of timidity and fear vanished. He stepped forward half a step, bent down, and reached out to pick up the nurse's name tag with absolute precision. His hand aimed perfectly at the tag, completely without the need to grope the ground with his cane. A wave of astonishment swept through the onlookers. The receptionist's eyes widened in disbelief. Director Tran frowned, a sudden, terrible feeling that something was wrong washing over him. The father held the name tag, carefully wiped the dust off with his sleeve, and smiled as he handed it back to Mai. Then, he turned to look directly at Director Tran. Slowly, he raised a hand to his face and decisively removed the cheap dark glasses, tossing them aside. Behind the glasses, there were no cloudy, blind eyes. Instead, his gaze was as sharp as a razor, radiating a supreme, undeniable authority. With a forceful swing of his arm, he took off the worn-out khaki jacket and threw it hard onto the floor. Right as the old jacket fell, the young personal assistant who had been sitting quietly reading a newspaper in the corner of the lobby all this time dropped his paper. He took long, professional strides straight towards the center of the room. Bowing respectfully at a perfect 90-degree angle, his voice echoed throughout the silent lobby. "Mr. Chairman." The assistant reverently draped a high-end, custom-tailored navy blue suit jacket over the father's shoulders, simultaneously placing a thick folder labeled Hospital Transfer Dossier into his hands. The rapid, shocking transformation froze the entire space. Director Tran stepped back, his face drained of all color, his lips trembling wordlessly. Behind the desk, the receptionist stood rooted to the spot, covering her mouth in horror. The father, now revealed as the chairman of the corporation and the true new owner of the hospital, flipped open the folder in his hands. His previously gentle, humble voice transformed into the booming tone of thunder. Each word struck like a nail driven into the air. Tran Viet Hung, executive director of Tam Duc Hospital, the new chairman declared. Within the past 6 months, you have secretly inflated the prices of medical services by 30%, created a slush fund from medical equipment commissions, and most seriously, you ordered the refusal of treatment for dozens of emergency cases just because they did not pay the full VIP deposit package. He forcefully threw the folder at Director Tran's feet. White papers filled with financial and medical ethics violations scattered like snow over the luxurious marble floor. Stepping close to Director Tran, his eyes blazing with fury, the chairman said, "You are right. The image of this hospital is very important. But the ones polluting it are not a child coughing up blood or a poor father, but a person carrying the title of doctor whose heart is rotten like yours." Director Tran could no longer stand steadily. His knees buckled and trembled, cold sweat soaking his forehead. He looked around in a sheer panic, seeking help, but the entire crowd of doctors and security guards had already stepped back, bowing their heads as they realized the horrifying truth. The turning of the tables was shockingly complete. The trap had been sprung, and the undercover billionaire's judgment was absolute. The arrogant director who tried to throw a sick child into the streets was about to be dragged out the door by his own security guards. But the billionaire's ultimate move wasn't just about destroying the corrupt, it was about rewarding the pure. When he turned to the lowly intern nurse who had risked everything to protect him, his final decision would leave the entire hospital absolutely speechless, proving that a single act of kindness is the ultimate currency. From a high angle, Director Tran looked incredibly small and pathetic. The air in the lobby was dead silent, save for his heavy panting and trembling footsteps. Like a deflated balloon, his legs gave out. He lunged toward the new chairman, clasping his hands together in sheer desperation, desperately trying to grab the edge of the high-end bespoke suit. Chairman, please listen to my explanation. Tran's voice broke, stripped of all its former tyrannical authority. This is a misunderstanding. I did everything for the hospital's profit. Please give me a chance to make amends. But the chairman coldly swatted his hand away. There was not a single ounce of pity in his sharp eyes. Tran's so-called repentance was nothing but the frantic panic of a man losing his power, not genuine remorse for his cruelty. A hospital needs profit to survive. The chairman's voice rang out with ironclad authority. But it must never be exchanged for the lives and dignity of the patients. You and every single person who blindly followed this heartless way of working are fired immediately. The chairman then turned his piercing gaze to the two large security guards, the very same men who had violently pushed him to the marble floor moments ago. The guards flinched, their faces turning completely pale, and hastily stood at attention. "You two," the chairman commanded, "do your jobs. Escort him and that receptionist out of the hospital doors. Right now." Not daring to hesitate for even a fraction of a second, the guards rushed forward. They forcefully grabbed Director Tran and Eva, who was sobbing uncontrollably behind her quartz desk, and dragged them toward the automatic revolving glass doors. It was a picture-perfect moment of poetic justice, witnessing the utter panic, the futile struggling, and the absolute despair of Director Tran, as he was literally thrown out into the streets by his own subordinates. With the trash finally taken out, the suffocating tension in the room instantly vanished. The lighting in the lobby seemingly grew warmer, and a soft, emotional melody seemed to play in the hearts of everyone watching. The chairman turned around, his intimidating aura melting away into deep, fatherly kindness. He walked over to intern nurse Mai, who was still standing frozen, covering her mouth with both hands in sheer disbelief. Slowly, he bent down and picked up her discarded name tag from the floor. Pulling a silk handkerchief from his suit pocket, he carefully wiped away the dust. "You did very well, young lady," the chairman smiled warmly, gently pinning the name tag back onto the unripped side of Mai's uniform. "I thought this hospital had completely lost its humanity until I saw you bravely stand up to protect a poor blind father and his child." Mai's face flushed red, tears of overwhelming emotion welling up in her eyes. I was only following the conscience of someone wearing this white coat. Mr. Chairman," she stammered. The chairman nodded in deep admiration. "A priceless conscience. Starting tomorrow, you are no longer an intern. I am officially appointing you as the new head of patient care. Furthermore, the corporation's charity fund will sponsor your full medical scholarship so you can continue your path to becoming an outstanding doctor." Overwhelmed with gratitude, Mai burst into tears, bowing repeatedly to thank him. The genuine doctors and patients remaining in the lobby erupted into a thunderous, echoing applause, filling the grand hall with deep respect and validation. Shortly after, the personal assistant bowed and pressed the button for the VIP elevator. As the gilded doors slowly slid open, little Lily, who had stopped crying, tightly held her father's large hand and looked up with big, innocent eyes. "Daddy," she asked sweetly, "are you not blind anymore? Are they not going to chase us away?" The chairman let out a hearty laugh, scooping his little girl up into his arms and kissing her cheek. Daddy isn't blind anymore, and from now on, no one will ever dare to bully my Lily again. Now, let's go see the best doctor to cure that cough. Holding his daughter in one arm and resting his other hand casually in his pocket, the chairman strode into the VIP elevator with absolute grace, his assistant following closely behind. As the elevator doors slowly slid shut, cutting off the view of the magnificent lobby, the last thing anyone saw was the radiant, triumphant smile of the father and daughter. The scene faded to black, and a deep, resonant voice echoed a final, unforgettable truth. Never let arrogance blind you to the true value of a person. Medical ethics and true greatness always begins with compassion. 6 months later, the cold reality of karma caught up to those who once believed they were untouchable. Blacklisted from the entire medical community thanks to the chairman's meticulous dossier, former director Adam Tran found himself completely stripped of his wealth and status. Once a man who wore Rolex watches and custom suits, Adam now stood in a wrinkled, cheap shirt outside a rundown, poorly lit suburban clinic, desperately begging for a basic managerial position. But the clinic owner, recognizing the disgraced doctor from the industry-wide scandal, didn't even let him step inside. With a disgusted sneer, the owner waved him off, splashing dirty puddle water onto Adam's worn-out shoes as he slammed the door shut. Adam could only stand there in the freezing rain, finally understanding the exact humiliation and helplessness he had once inflicted upon a desperate, pleading father. Meanwhile, miles away in a greasy, noisy fast food diner, former receptionist Eva was wiping down a sticky table. Gone were her tailored grey suits, silk scarves and pristine manicures. Wearing a stained uniform, her hands were now rough, cracked and ruined by harsh cleaning chemicals. As she scrubbed the grime, she glanced up at the small television hanging in the corner of the diner. The news was broadcasting a live report from Tam Duke International Hospital, highlighting its massive success, a newly opened charity wing that provided free healthcare for impoverished children. Seeing the gleaming marble floors she used to stand on, a single tear of bitter, crushing regret rolled down Eva's face. She had traded a lifetime of security in an empire of wealth for a momentary thrill of arrogance. Back at the magnificent Tam Duke Hospital, the atmosphere had completely transformed. The cold, elitist dread was gone, replaced by genuine warmth and care. Walking down the sunlit corridors was Anna, no longer a lowly, bullied intern, but the highly respected head of patient care. She wore a pristine, perfectly tailored blue scrub suit with a gleaming gold nameplate. Despite her newfound authority and a fully funded medical scholarship, her gentle, radiant smile had not changed. She greeted every patient, whether a billionaire, VIP, or a charity case, with the exact same boundless compassion that had changed her destiny that fateful day. Outside, in the hospital's lush, sun-drenched private courtyard, a joyful, bell-like laugh echoed through the air. Little Lily, completely cured of her terrifying illness, was no longer the pale, coughing child in a faded, oversized floral dress. She looked like a radiant little princess in a beautiful, crisp white dress, her cheeks rosy with health as she happily chased a yellow butterfly across the manicured green grass. Watching her from a luxurious wooden bench was Chairman Nani. He no longer needed a battered wooden cane or cheap dark glasses to hide his presence. Dressed impeccably in a sharp, tailored grey suit, he sat with a posture of absolute peace and quiet authority. His loyal assistant, Andrew, stood respectfully a few steps behind him, holding a briefcase, an ever-watchful guardian of the empire. As Lily ran back and threw her tiny arms around her father's neck, Nanny held her tightly, his eyes reflecting the golden sunlight. The storm had passed, the arrogant had been reduced to the dirt they once spat upon, and the ultimate truth remained standing. True power does not roar to demand respect. It whispers through acts of kindness, and it always protects its own. 15 years later, the Tamduk medical empire had expanded far beyond a single hospital, growing into a global, multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. Anna, the once bullied intern, was now the legendary chief medical officer of the entire network, known worldwide for her uncompromising ethics and brilliant surgical skills. But wealth and expansion inevitably attract greedy individuals, and Chairman Nani, whose hair was now distinguished with streaks of silver, knew that the rot of arrogance could easily infect his empire once again. He needed to know if the newly appointed board of directors at their latest biotech acquisition was truly serving the people or just lining their own pockets. It was time for a new test. But this time, the chairman wouldn't be the one going undercover. In the towering glass skyscraper of the newly acquired biotech division, the air was thick with corporate elitism. Marcus, the pompous and ruthlessly ambitious new CEO, was standing in the center of the opulent boardroom, laughing with his corrupt executives about a scheme to double the prices of a life-saving medication. Suddenly, the heavy oak doors creaked open. A young, seemingly clumsy janitor in a faded, oversized grey uniform and scuffed sneakers awkwardly pushed a cleaning cart into the room. Her hair was pulled back into a messy bun, and dirt smudged her cheek. As she reached to empty the trash bin, her elbow slipped, knocking a half-full cup of black coffee right onto Marcus's expensive Italian leather shoes. The boardroom went dead silent. Marcus's face twisted into an ugly mask of pure rage. He grabbed the young janitor by the collar of her cheap uniform, pulling her close. "You clumsy, worthless piece of trash," he spat, his voice echoing off the glass walls. "Do you have any idea how much these shoes cost? It's more than you make in a decade. You are fired. In fact, I will make sure you never find a job in this city again. Now get on your knees and wipe it off with your bare hands." But the young janitor did not tremble. She did not cry, and she did not drop to her knees. Instead, she gently but firmly swatted the CEO's heavy hand away from her collar. Slowly, she looked up, pushing a stray lock of hair out of her face to reveal dark, highly intelligent eyes. A subtle, razor-sharp smirk, one that was terrifyingly familiar, played on her lips. "I don't think I'll be doing that, Marcus," she said, her voice completely shedding its timid pitch, replaced by a smooth, chillingly calm authority. Marcus blinked, stunned by her sudden change in demeanor. "Excuse me? Who do you think you are talking to?" Without breaking eye contact, the janitor reached deep into the pocket of her stained apron. She didn't pull out a rag. Instead, she withdrew a solid black platinum-edged master key card, a card that was only issued to the absolute highest tier of the Tamduk Empire. She tapped it against the boardroom's central console. Instantly, the electronic locks on the doors sealed shut with a heavy click, and the massive screens around the room flashed red, displaying a complete freeze on all of Marcus's corporate accounts. "My name is Lily," she said softly, her posture straightening as she unzipped the baggy janitor's uniform to reveal a perfectly tailored, striking white designer suit underneath. "I am the sole heiress to the Tamduk conglomerate, and the new majority shareholder of this division. And you, Marcus, have just failed your performance review." Miles away, inside a secure, state-of-the-art surveillance suite, Chairman Nani sat comfortably in a plush leather armchair, watching the hidden camera feed on a massive monitor. A deeply proud, warm smile spread across his weathered face. Standing faithfully by his side, an older but equally sharp Andiu poured a cup of premium tea. "She certainly inherited your flair for the dramatic, sir," Andiu noted, a rare grin touching the corners of his mouth. Nani took a slow sip of his tea, his eyes gleaming as he watched his daughter systematically dismantle the corrupt CEO's entire career on the screen. "She learned from the best, Andiu. The empire is in good hands." The legacy of justice continued. proving that in a world blinded by status, the ultimate power always lies with those who know how to walk in the shoes of the unseen. The screen slowly fades to black, leaving only the faint, rhythmic memory of a wooden cane tapping against marble. In a world obsessed with superficial wealth and arrogant titles, true greatness is never measured by the clothes you wear or the money in your pocket. It is measured by the kindness you show to those who seemingly have nothing to offer you. The Tamduk legacy was not forged by billions of dollars, but by a single, priceless act of compassion from a lowly intern. So, let this be a warning. The next time you are tempted to look down on someone in the shadows, tread carefully. You never know when you might be standing in the presence of a disguised king.